A little while later, a few months had passed, there was a superstition in the city of Agra that if somebody woke up in the morning, the very first face that they saw would influence the rest of their day. That was the superstition. If the person had an auspicious face, then they would have a particularly good day. But if the person had an inauspicious face, and that was the first one that you saw in the morning, well, then your day would just keep going wrong. This was the superstition. One day the emperor got out of bed, rubbed his eyes, stretched his arms, scratched the back of his foot, and wandered over to the balcony of his bedroom to look at all he surveyed. And right under his balcony at that wall was the river. And across the other side of the river he could see a poor washerman banging clothes on a rock in the side of the river. And he watched him for a while because he loved his subjects. And the washerman just happened to glance up at the emperor's balcony, and the emperor was standing there. He waved. The emperor waved back at him the way an emperor does. Smiled, went back inside. The washerman picked all his washing up, threw it in a basket, I think he even left a few pieces behind, and ran home to tell everyone that he saw the emperor just after he got out of bed. The emperor had a bit of help getting dressed, and he decided to head down to the Duana Arm and sit on his throne and meet a few people. And as he was going up the stairs into the Duana Arm, he tripped on one of the stairs and stumbled and hit the shin right in the middle. How that feels? On the edge of the step. Big bruise. And he said, "Oh!" And all the advisors who were following him, they all rushed up and, "Oh, Jahanpana, what's happened to you?" And they sat him down and they rubbed his leg and they sent off for ointment. And he said, "Oh, leave it, I'll be all right, I'll be all right." And the advisor started saying, "These horrid steps, and it's so dark in here. How dare these steps trip up our beloved emperor?" And someone said, "Yes, after the emperor has ascended the stairs, we'll have the stonemason come and smash these stairs down as a punishment to them and rebuild some new, more worthy stairs for the emperor to tread upon." The emperor said, "Leave it, man. Leave it. It's all right." And he sat on his throne for a while and he met a few people, but he couldn't smile and he wasn't as cheerful as he usually was with his subjects because he still had this numbing, throbbing pain in his shin and a really big bruise that he couldn't keep his hands off. He kept soothing himself while he was talking to people, which looks a bit odd, doesn't it? I think I've got to stop doing it. And after a while he said, "Look, I think I'll take a recess for a while and go out into the garden and have some fresh air and try and take my mind off this pain in my leg." So he went out to his garden, which was the best garden in the whole of Hindustan. And he went past his rose garden, the rose beds. He picked up the most beautiful rose he could find, and he didn't break it, he just bent it a little bit and inhaled deeply. And while he was inhaling deeply, there was a bee inside the rose, and he had other ideas. He flew out of the rose and he stung the emperor on the hand, the little fleshy bit between your thumb and your finger. And the people ran out of the palace. "Oh, your majesty, what's happened?" "Oh, no. And they sat him down and they set off for ointments, and the fellow who was around before, he said, "I know what we'll do. We'll get all the army together and we'll go out, we'll kill every single bee in the city of Agra as a punishment." The emperor said, "Somebody get that man out of here. Talk sense, man. It's just a bee sting." He said, "Everything's going wrong for me today. First I fall down and bang my leg. Next I get stung by a bee in my own garden. It's a very, very unlucky day." And one of the subjects, very superstitious fellow, said, yes, perhaps the first face you saw today was a very inauspicious face. The emperor said, the very first face I saw today was that of the town washerman, washing his clothes in the river, banging them on the rock. I saw him from the balcony and he waved and I smiled, and that was the first face that I saw this morning. And this fellow said, oh, that's it! It was that damn washerman. And he sent a whole bunch of fellas off to go and catch the washerman and bring him to the palace. And he said, don't worry, Your Majesty, we'll deal with this fellow. How dare he put his inauspicious face under your lofty gaze first thing in the morning and bring such calamity on your person. The emperor sat there scratching his head saying, yes, perhaps that was the reason, yeah. And while they were waiting for the washerman to be dragged into the Duana arm, all his advisors were sitting around plotting what they were going to do with the washerman when they got him. We'll take him to the stairs and we'll bang each of his shins 20 times on the stairs, and we'll put him in a bag full of bees, and, Finally someone said, no, let's cut off his head. We'll execute the man. Right in front of the palace steps. Invite the whole city to come and watch. And all the advisors were in agreement. Yes, that's it. We'll cut off his head and no one will ever see that inauspicious face again. See how he manages without it. While they were still waiting for the poor washerman to be found, probably hiding under his washing, Raj Birbal, the emperor's latest advisor, came down and sat next to the emperor. He had no idea what was going on, and someone whispered in his ear and filled him in. And he leaned over to the emperor and he said, oh, Your Majesty, I'm very sorry to hear about the terrible tragedies that have occurred to you today. And he says, yes, Raj Birbal, we're waiting for the washerman now, and we've got a good mind to cut off this man's head. What do you think about that? And he said, well, Your Majesty, the very first face you saw today was that of the washerman, and you banged your shin and you got stung by a bee. But this poor washerman, the very first face he saw today was yours, and he's about to lose his head. Which one of you do you think has the most inauspicious face? The emperor said, Ha! And he laughed. And he said, you're absolutely right, Birbal. It is the most ridiculous superstition. And he sent message to give 100 gold pieces to this poor washerman for his trouble. And he sent out word that this superstition, from this day on, that's it, nullified. Tell everyone, it's rubbish. I don't want to hear anyone talking about it. And they sang songs and celebrated the victory of sense over nonsense.